Solange Mougin joins me on the set to take a look at what the papers have been saying today. Hi, Solange.
Hi, Jeannie.
Today, I'm so happy to say that you're actually starting off with some really great news.
Yeah, and for once, I get to start this press review with some very happy news. It feels good. Papers across the globe are hailing the World Health Organization's green lighting of a malaria vaccine. It could, as El País tells us, save hundreds of thousands of lives. And as the world's first vaccine of against a parasitic disease, it is a breakthrough in science, the paper says, and it is cost effective, coming in at around $5, which is per jab, which is all the more important because the vaccine is slated for Africa. Now, for the Times of London, this is a historic step forward for a vaccine that's been some 30 years in the making, and one that could help reinvigorate, the paper says, the push to combat malaria, which, a reminder, the Times tells us, kills more than 250,000 children under the age of 5 every year. Now, Vox tells us as well that there's even another vaccine that is in the works, one with an even greater efficacy in early trials. So it's a big hurrah. Malaria could be about to get a serious beating.
And interesting to see, it was just the British paper that said it was a British vaccine.
Yes, indeed. Good.
All right. Let's talk now about another very important issue that's been hitting the front pages, abortion, which is making headlines both in the United States and here in France.
Yeah, let's start with the U.S. first. The Houston Chronicle tells us that a federal judge has suspended the near total abortion ban in the state, saying in a 113-page opinion piece that the law was both obviously unconstitutional and, quote, an offensive deprivation of an important right, end quote. Now, of course, the decision was very quickly appealed by state leaders, but the ruling does show that there has been some effective federal pushback. And the case could also go to the U.S. Supreme Court, which is already set to hear another case on abortion in December. Now to the news in France. Last month's criticism of the Macron government may be beginning to bear fruit. The critiques were that his government had not actively pushed a re-examination of a bill that would extend the number of weeks from 12 to 14 that a woman is allowed to have an abortion in the country. But now the head of Macron's party has told Le Parisien that he plans to take up the issue again and is going to try and pass it before the next presidential election.
There's been a very explosive report out of Russia that's talking about the treatment of prisoners in Russian jails.
Yeah, and it's actually quite rare that we see this kind of critical coverage on the cover of a Russian paper. Today, the paper Moscovici Komsomolets dives into the torture and rape of Russian prisoners after a whistleblower leaked a video footage of such violent abuse. Now, faced with such gruesome proof, the Russian paper explains that the director of the hospital slash prison, as well as a number of guards, were fired and investigations have been opened, which is also a rare move by Russian authorities. But Le Monde tells us, and this is the even darker bit, that such shocking treatment is commonplace and systemic. One rights activist who now lives in exile in France told the paper that he has nearly 1,000 videos of similar abuse, and that such videos of rape and torture are actually often filmed, get this, at the request of authorities.
All right, let's switch gears completely now, Solange, and come back to France, where the competition to be a front runner in next spring's presidential election is really heating up.
Yeah, Le Figaro explains that a recent poll has just come out that shows that far-right commentator Éric Zemmour has surged ahead of Marine Le Pen, and he could actually make it to the second round of the presidential elections. But the amount of credibility that such polls should be given is hotly being debated in the French press. Now, L'Opinion notes that the duel between the two far-right politicians, Zemmour and Marine Le Pen, is akin to a shark attack or a deadly tango. But it is still uncertain, the paper says, of who is leading the dance. Now, regardless of whether Zemmour will actually be able to get the political backing and the very much needed signatures to become a candidate, the French press is talking a lot about this, notes Mediapart. It writes, quote, "We, the media, have created a monster, one that is getting away from us," end quote. Now, in that line, their cartoonist, Fred Sochard, wonders whether Zemmour is a French Trump with an armada of journalists journalists calling his name, and whether they are therefore elevating a man who, it's important to note, has been convicted of inciting racism, whether they are elevating him into the spotlight.
All right, just to wrap up now, Solange, The Guardian is discussing the pleasures of foraging and chowing down. I'm intrigued.
Yes. In what is considered the Oscars of gastronomy, the top restaurant award, the prize for the world's best restaurant has gone to Noma, went to Noma on Tuesday night, thrusting back into the spotlight the chef René Redzepi, who you see there, and his foraging techniques, or his ability to find delicious meals in the wild. Now, this yumminess of wild herbs and berries is surely understood by the portly Patriarch of Paunch. In another article entitled Ursus gluttonous maximus, The Guardian also tells us that this year's recipient of the beefiest bear award was awarded to 480 Otis. Now, while he may not be the biggest bear in Alaska, his weight gain over the past summer in Katmai National Park was, for some 6,000 Alaskans who voted in this competition, most impressive. But one place that 480 Otis should stay clear of is, you guessed it, Noma, which serves up, you can see where I'm going with this, in addition to wild berries, they also serve up bear meat.
Oh, poor 480 Otis.
Yes,
stay away.
stay away.
Solange, thank you very much for that. Solange Moujon there with today's press review.